We are
The Girls Who Gab.
I'm Kassie.
And I'm Bayley. And if you are listening to this or watching this, that means that baby number 2 is here. And that's super exciting. But also a little weird because I can't actually give you updates because this is pre-recorded. So updates will be coming later. Kassie will be kind of giving an update of everything on the baby and how baby and mama are doing and the new family of 4. So this is my last episode for now. And then I'll come back later whenever that happens.
Not to worry, though. We will still have episodes. I will be having guest hosts almost every episode until Bayley makes her way back to us. So this is the beginning of the next segment of Girls Who Gab for now.
Yay!
Let's continue with the episode. Hello.
Hi.
We're here.
We're here.
This is a new episode, and this is Chelsea.
Hello.
And I'm Kassie, if you don't know. I'm the co-host of this podcast. Bayley is still out, but today we're going to be talking about fertility and trying to get pregnant and everything
in between.
So, yeah, we're going to deep dive into a lot of stuff. So before we really get into this episode, I do want to say there's some trigger warnings here for miscarriage, infertility, pregnancy, all of that good stuff. Yes. So if those are sensitive topics to you, then maybe skip this one. And I hope that this gives you who might be dealing with the same things a peace of mind that other people are going through shit too.
That you can relate to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself? How do we know each other? Who are you?
So my name's Chelsea. I know Kassie. We used to work together at Claim Jumper. How long ago now?
A long time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Over,
at least 5 years.
Yeah, over 5 years, I would say. But that's how we met. And I feel like when we worked together, we were friends. We talked and stuff, but I feel
super close.
Yeah, we weren't super close. But lately we've reconnected and started talking mainly because of fertility issues and stuff like that. So, because it's always nice when you run into someone or a friend that's going through something similar, and we wouldn't have known this until Kassie started opening up and talking about her fertility issues on social media. So then I've also posted something months ago about my issues kind of. So then that's how we kind of reconnected through that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we know each other. We worked together and now we recently reconnected.
Yeah. It's been really nice having somebody who just understands without any explanation.
Yeah.
Of everything that's going on.
You just kind of get it, even if it's not you're not going through the exact same thing. It's just nice because you just have feelings that you feel so alone. So when someone else is no, I feel that same thing too.
You're just
nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what this episode is basically going to be. Is your because somebody gets it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is how we know each other. We're drinking 2 different things today. I'm drinking coffee,
and I'm drinking iced tea. I'm not a coffee person. But
no.
I wish I was because it smells so good. But
I love it, but. Also, I'm sad that I'm as addicted as I am.
Yeah.
Because if I don't get coffee, then I get a headache. And
that's I'm kind of I guess it's good that I don't like coffee because I know it's so addicting.
Yeah.
So.
So we normally start with a cheers to that and a pour one out. Otherwise, a good thing that happened recently or this week and a negative that happened this week or whatever. I usually always start with the negative because I want to end on a positive.
Okay.
But do you want to go first with whichever one you want to start with?
Sure. I'll start with my positive, because I feel it's easier to think of. My positive for this week was I got my first COVID shot, which is really surprising for me because I wasn't an anti-vax person. I wasn't against it, but I'm just the type that I need to come around to things slowly, think about it. And I was kind of also I was kind of scared to get the shot because of my fertility issues. I feel there's obviously the study saying if you're pregnant it's safe, but when you're trying and going through actual fertility treatments, I haven't heard anything on that. So I kind of just had to research and talk to doctors and stuff, but I've decided to get it, so I got my first shot, so I feel happy about that now. I feel more comfortable and more safe. So
yeah, and it'll be perfect timing because as we'll get into later, you'll have like your second shot before everything gets started for what's going on next for you.
Yeah, so I kind of had to like time it out perfect. As soon as I like decided I wanted to get it, I was like, wait, I need to call the doctor. Like, is this okay? And she's like, yeah, as long as you get both shots before starting like what we're going to be starting. So it worked out perfect. So so yeah, awesome. I got my first shot, so I feel good about that.
Yeah. My pour one out is that Hedwig is in the hospital right now.
Yeah.
So my white cat, I don't know if the podcast will have seen him before because we don't film that often at my house. But if you check out my social media, I'm sure he's somewhere down there. Yeah, so my white cat, I've had him since 2015, and he like has medical issues that go far back. Like he has asthma, which is really the stem of all of the issues. And so because of that, he got like a infection that's making him not eat. And so basically he was starving himself. So he's being hospitalized so that he's getting like a faster version of the antibiotics he needs for the infection, which is like basically a nose issue.
Yeah.
And then he's also being like force fed.
So sad.
I know. It's really sad. So he's gone until like Tuesday, and this is Sunday. And yeah, it's been very stressful like leading up to that, because that all just happened yesterday, but like this whole week has just been very much like Hedwig is not eating. Hedwig is sick. I am sick. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been mine.
Okay. So my pour one out I couldn't honestly think of anything like that I was just like, this week. But the only thing I was like, okay, this was kind of annoying was at work. So I work in a salon and I'm an esthetician, and we do sugaring, which is like a natural form of waxing. So I just take clients all day long, and we work for like tips, obviously, kind of like a server. Like that's a big part of our money. And I feel like this week was just like a shitty week. Like a lot of people were canceling, rescheduling, and then the people that I did have just like weren't my regular clients and like didn't like tip well. It was just like a bad week. I was just like every day after the shift I was just like, I'm over this, like what is going on? So I feel insane. Like that's my pour one out, because I was like, I'm just over this week.
Yeah. My cheers to that this week is that I started crocheting a top for myself. And so cute. I've known how to knit for a few years, and I a long time ago used to crochet, like when I was little, because my mom used to crochet, but I didn't remember how to do it. But it turns out it's way easier than knitting.
Okay.
So I've been knitting crocheting a top, and I'm excited.
Cute. Yeah.
I hope it turns out good. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, trial.
Yeah, exactly. First time's a charm.
Yes.
Right?
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's my cheers to that.
Okay.
So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
I have a feeling this episode might be long, so
yeah, there's a lot to go over.
Yeah, if you've been watching the last few episodes, you know all of them have been long. So just like take a seat, get a snack, get a drink, and we'll get into it. People who are watching have likely heard like my own story of like I'm married and you know who Matt is, how long we've been together, all of that.
Yes.
You know, fun stuff. And if you haven't, there's an episode that I'll link in the cards for you. If you're interested in like the background of it, why don't you give us a backstory of like how did you and Corey meet, how long have you been together,
like that background.
Connor and stuff like that.
So my husband is Corey, and we met actually working at Claim Jumper as well. So we met in, I want to say it was like 2012 or 13, around there, and then we started dating in like 2014, and then we got married in 2016. So we've been married 4.5 years. This year in September will be 5 years. So and then Corey has a son who is now 9, gonna be 10, but when we married he was 5. So his name is Connor. So when me and Corey first met, like Corey wasn't sure if he wanted to have more kids, because he just like Connor like just happened to happen like kind of on accident. Corey had already had Connor before, and then when we got married, we both decided, like, he changed his mind. Like, he was like, yes, I want kids with you. Like, and then me seeing him as a dad, like, I already kind of knew I wanted to be a mom, but then, like, when you see, like, your husband already being, like, such a good dad, it just makes you want kids even more. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I want this so bad. So we decided, like, once we got married that I was on birth control. I've been on birth control since I was, like, 17. So, I never went off of it. I've been on it until we got married. So once we got married, we just decided that we were just going to go off of it, because we didn't really have a timeline of when we wanted to have kids. I was just like, when we get married, I'll just go off birth control and we'll just see what happens. Like, that's what everyone seems to do, and it just works, right?
Yeah.
So So 2016 we got married, and then in September, and then in October I went off birth control. Basically since then we've been trying to have a baby, and it's now 2021, and we're still in the process.
Yeah. And you've never been pregnant.
And I've never been pregnant and never had a miscarriage. So just so you guys know that backstory. Yeah. I'm 29, and then Corey and I kind of have an age difference. He's a little bit older than me, but I'm still considered young, I guess. Like, I shouldn't have.
Yeah, you're not within, like, a risky.
Yeah, I think it's, like, over 35 is
considered risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Matt, when we met when I was 20 and Matt was 35. We have a 15-year age difference, and I think overall it's like a good thing that we have this age difference because it took me a while to be ready to want to have kids. Like, I always knew I wanted them, and Matt and I have talked about it from the beginning. Like, we knew we wanted to be parents, but getting to the point where we were actually ready to start trying, it took a while. I was ready before Matt.
Yeah.
So Matt is obviously older, and I think he just, I don't know, that would have to include him in order to really get into, like, why he was nervous or whatever. But eventually, like, we did talk about it. So we've been trying for the last 8 months. So back in August of 2020, we discussed it, and we actually, that was a funny story because I did not think that Matt was going to agree to it at that time. So I had been bringing it up probably for the last, like, year before that. Yeah. Like, can we have kids yet? And he's like,
when
no.
Can we start trying?
Right, exactly. And he's like, no, not yet. No.
Because I feel like in a lot of people's head, before you go through any fertility issues, you think, like, the minute, you think it's so easy to get pregnant.
Right, and you're just like, you can't go into that next step until you're, like, really ready.
Because you think it's just going to happen.
Yeah. So he was like, no, we're not doing this yet, whatever. So then in August, I did the same thing. I was like, so when can we start having babies? And he was like, October, or December, I think he said first. He was like, December. Or he maybe said 2021. I don't remember, whichever one. It was something like that. And I was like, wait,
this is happening.
What? And I was like, October, like, let's play this
negotiate.
Game. Yeah, negotiate. I was like, October. And he was like, November. I'm like, I'll take it.
Sure.
So that was when we, like, had agreed, and that was really how that conversation went. It was funny. Bizarre because it's so, like, no, and then suddenly he was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
And it's, like, such a serious topic.
Right. Like, and we had been married, like, over a year at that point, and we had been together. We're about to hit 8 years together. Yeah. So we've been together for a while.
Yeah.
So that was, like, how that conversation happened, and then I went off birth control at the like, mid-October because I just didn't want to start, like, a new cycle or, like, pill. I think I was on the pill at that time. So that was the other thing, too, that I did. I had been on the Depo shot for a really long time.
Okay.
I actually really love the Depo shot. That's my favorite birth control. It works the best for me.
Yeah.
But it does have a side effect of taking up to a year for your cycle to come back once you stop it. So I had switched about a year before, like, prepping.
Oh, nice. That's good.
So I had been on the pill, which was supposedly better for, like...
Because you can just stop it and technically get pregnant, like, right away. Yeah.
So we were hoping that would, like, fix the cycle issue and that wouldn't be in the way. Here we are. So, so I had already done that before, like, talking with Matt. Well, I mean, we had talked about it, but I was still on birth control, so it wasn't really, like, a discussion. So then I went off birth control in, like, mid-October because that was the new pill pack.
Yes.
And then...
That's funny. That's when I stopped in October,
But years before, yeah. So then, so that's kind of, like, the background. We're going to get into, like, some things that happened for Chelsea, if, like, what were some of the first things that showed up that went, okay, I should go get some things checked, what were the things that were checked, etc. But before we do that, I just wanted to do 2 quick stats. 1 in 4 people who have uteruses have miscarriages, and 1 in 8 have issues with infertility and, like, need medical intervention in order to have a baby or can't. Like, all of that is included in the 1 in 8.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And you're watching this video with a 1 in 4 and a 1 in 8 because I had a miscarriage back in February, which I'm sure we'll, like, actually talk about in this episode, but in a better placement.
Yes.
and then you're going to be eventually going into IVF, which is where we're headed towards the end of this this will happen in the episode.
Yes. Like I said, we got married in September of 2016. I went off birth control in October of 2016, and I was on the pill too. So it was just like, technically, maybe we could get pregnant right away. Mm-hmm. So we tried and our trying in the beginning was just not taking birth control. That was literally our trying.
Just having sex.
Yes, because I didn't know any better. Like, honestly, I didn't even know about, like, tracking ovulation. Like, I didn't research anything. I was just like, oh, I'm just going off my birth control. Here we go. So I would say our trying was probably for the first year. So from 2016 of October to probably October of 2017, we just didn't do birth control, and we just had sex and was like, let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. And then I would say after that full year of nothing happening, then I got more serious about it, and then I started like researching how to like track your ovulation. I ordered ovulation tests, started taking those every month, and I would get positives. So I don't know if everyone knows this, but when you get a positive ovulation test, it doesn't mean for sure that you actually ovulated. Right. It just detects the LH surge, which is like the hormones
that makes you ovulate.
That detects that your body should ovulate, but getting the positive ovulation test doesn't mean for sure that you ovulated.
Because you can still have the surge and then nothing happen at the end of it, but it's like it's the only indicator that you can have at this point.
You're not going to like a doctor. Yeah. So I think when I first started taking ovulation tests, I didn't know about that. I know about that now. But so in my head, when I was getting the positives, I was like, okay, everything's fine. Like, so I would say that was probably after a year of like trying, but not being that serious about it. Because we wanted kids right away, but I wasn't like in a huge rush either. I was kind of just like, well, let's see if it happens. Obviously, I didn't think it was going to take this long. But so then I would say after the first year, that's when I started getting more serious about tracking ovulation, and I feel like that's when I started to try to like get a little bit healthier too, like take prenatals and have like Corey take like daily multivitamins, just stuff like that. But that was like the only next step we really did, and then that's when I started to really learn about my body. Like I knew exactly when I was ovulating because that's when I was like paying attention to it. So you can just like.
There's a couple different things you can do. We could get into it.
Yeah, why not?
So like one of the going back to those LH strips, the ovulation tests, you want to test like daily after you have your period, and then when you get closer to like the time frame of when an ovulation is happening, which is normally anywhere between day like 11 and 15 ish. You want to start testing twice a day because that LH surge doesn't last very long. It's not like a pregnancy test where it's going to be positive.
So if you were only doing it once a day and like say one day you tested at like 9 a.m. and the next day you didn't test till like the evening, you could have totally missed that positive.
And so you could have just not seen it even if it did happen. So like if you're somebody who's trying to get pregnant and you're taking the ovulation test and you're not seeing positive, it could be because you're missing it for that kind of a reason.
Yeah. And there's so many other signs within your body, too. Like
cervical fluid.
Yes. That's how I know. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely ovulating.
We won't get into those great details in this episode, but if you want to know, then you can look up cervical fluid in your cycle or something like that on Google, and you can find anywhere from like just a drawn picture all the way to like videos of real stuff. However much you want to know.
You can find it.
And I've looked at all of that. That's how I know it exists.
I want to know all the details all the time.
I'm like, tell me more. Yes. What is it supposed to look like?
It's never TMI for me. But yeah, so I feel like when you're trying and you've been trying for a while, you really just get in tune with your body, and I just feel like at this point, especially like now trying for however many years, 5 years or whatever, like I just know my body, like I just know. I'm like, this is what's happening on this time. Like, I know I ovulate, like, between days, like, 12 and 14. It just happens. So, so back to what I was saying. So, after that whole first year is when we started getting more serious about it. And then into that second year, so that was 2017, is when I started realizing, like, something may be wrong here. Which is so weird because I thought because Corey has a son that it was just going to be so easy. So then it started to make me feel like, okay, whatever the problem is, it's definitely me, which that's like, it just makes you feel so like I don't know, like depressed because you just feel like one person, like you're holding another person back because something's wrong with you. So I think when we first started to plan to like get checked or go to a doctor, I think it was like a year. We were like halfway into 2017. I think it was like around March. So at this point we had been trying for a year and a half.
And they do say like if you're under 30 or under 28, I don't remember, some statistics showed different things, then it's still like 6 to 12 months is like the average amount of time it takes to get pregnant. Like that's within normal range.
And they say like not to go to a doctor until you've been trying for a year, I think.
Yeah, that's like the standard. They're not gonna like tell you no, you can't.
Yeah, you can still go to the doctor if you want, but I feel like they'll be like, well, how long have you been trying? It's only been a few months or only 6 months, keep trying or something. Yeah. But I think if if you're 35 and older, if you've been trying for 6 months with no luck, then you should go to a doctor. Or that's what they say.
There's also this really cool, I'll put a link to it in the cards and everything, because there's this really cool like circle of a couple different statistics that I found very interesting, and it's like each time you have like a 20 to 25% chance of getting pregnant each month if you're at this certain age, and there's like all these different statistics on it. It's just a nice little like graph.
Yeah, it's
again,
interesting.
if you like those numbers.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So March of 2017 was when we first went to a doctor. So for me, I never really had like an OBGYN that I would like always go to. I always just went to like my like family doctor. I think it was always just like a nurse practitioner that I would see, which is another thing. I guess like I wasn't prepared, like when you start trying, like I should have probably like founded like OBGYN, like did all that, but I was just going into it like blindly. So I went to just my family doctor to get a pap smear and like a normal, what do they call it? Physical. A woman's like normal physical, I guess, is like a pap smear, and then they just they take like your blood and they just make sure like everything is like healthy with you, like just
they'll usually do a breast check and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
just all of that. So that's what I went to first, and then that's when I asked the nurse questions like, so we've been trying for like a year and a half. Is there anything that I should do, like, or someone in particular that I should see or be like referred to? And so she was the one that said that I should see like an OBGYN. So after seeing her and getting my like results back from that whole physical and everything came back normal, I went, instead of seeing an OBGYN, I had seen a friend of mine who I wasn't super close to, but I think Corey knew her because they used to work together, but I had her on my Facebook. She had just posted this whole long story about how she finally got pregnant after years of trying and nothing happening. And she said all thanks to this doctor. And so I had actually reached out to her, and she went to a fertility like clinic. So it's not an OBGYN, it's not like a normal doctor's office. They just deal with like infertility and like fertility treatments. So I actually just ended up going straight to them because I was already like super paranoid and worried that it had been a year and a half, and like now I just got these physical results back and everything's fine. So in my head I was just like, it has to be something like specific, so I just want to go straight to like the source of it, I guess, where they could find our issues. So in March of 2017 is when we went to it was either March or April, around there, we went to the fertility clinic for the first time. And so with that, your first appointment is just a consultation, and you literally just talk about your whole like background of how long you've been trying, your age, your like health background, I don't know, all of that. So it was just a consultation, and then at the first consultation, they also did an ultrasound, which actually she said happened to be at the perfect timing because when I went in for that consultation, I was like right around my ovulation period. And so she did an ultrasound right then and there after our consultation. And in that ultrasound, she had said, like, it looks like you don't have as many, like, follicles, which is technically kind of like your eggs. I guess that's, each follicle has, like, an egg in it, and that's how your, I don't know how to explain it.
So, like, the uterus.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching,
yes,
you'll get a very cute Kassie doing weird stuff. So the uterus, and then these things are the follicles.
Yes.
And each one potentially can make a mature egg, and then at the time of your ovulation, one of the eggs gets matured and then flows down on one side. And then obviously if you're getting twins, then that's 2, or it'll be split, but that's a different kind of twin.
Yeah.
So what she was saying was that you don't have as many of these.
Yes. So for someone that was, at that time, I think I was, how old was I? 27, I think. She had said, for someone my age, it did look like I had less than what I should have. Okay. And that was just, like, her first initial, like, ultrasound. So this wasn't with any, like, hardcore testing or anything. But even her just saying that, I was already, like, great. Like, something's wrong here. Yeah. And after that appointment, like, I just remember, like, bawling, because I was like, okay, here we go. Like, you just think the worst, you know? So that was our first initial appointment, and then following that, she ordered, like, just a bunch of testing for Corey and I both.
So what kind of what kind of testing was done? Like, did they test hormones? Did they do, like, a sperm test?
Yeah, so the first test that they did for Corey, the only thing they ever really have to do for the guy is a sperm test. So it's like a sperm analysis. It's literally what you think of it is they just give a sample of their sperm. I'm sure you know how. Yeah.
I love this topic because it's like...
yeah, it's like, I don't want to gross anyone out, but this is like how it is. Yeah. So, he just had to schedule a day to go in and give a sperm sample, and then they just evaluate the sperm count and, like, motility, so the way that they move, just like everything about the sperm. And then my testing was just like a whole blood panel, so it's like kind of what they did in the physical. They just take your blood, but they took like 10 tubes of blood because they're testing like everything. So they wanted to also test what my doctor tested, just like your cholesterol, your like
the normal
blood test, but then they also tested like your hormone levels, like your thyroid, like just everything. So your hormones, I don't even know how they test that. They have to test it on a specific day of your cycle, because they have to test like your progesterone levels, which progesterone you're supposed to,
and it flows throughout the cycle.
Yeah, it should rise at different times in your cycle. They also test your AMH levels, which that's supposed to help them learn your like egg count or something like that. So depending on what your number comes back for that, it should be at a certain number for your age. So like if you're 25 to 30, it should be at this level or something like that. And so in that test, she confirmed like, yes, you have like a low egg reserve. So I have a lower amount of eggs basically than a normal 27-year-old.
I see.
At that point. So basically they just tested like all your hormone levels, your normal like blood panel, and then and then another test you have to do, which is a basic test that any woman has to do if they're going to want to go through fertility treatments, is called an HSG. So it's where they insert a blue dye through your cervix into your uterus. Okay. And this is like, everyone says it's like super painful. So if you like Google an HSG test.
You've done it or not?
Yeah, you have to do this like this was like one of the first tests you have to do.
Gotcha.
So after doing like the blood test and stuff, they scheduled me for that test. So if you Google an HSG test, it's like, it's the most painful thing ever. Like, you're going to just be in so much pain after. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm scared. So, because it's basically like you're going in for a pap smear. Like they put in a speculum to open up, you know, and then they insert like a catheter or something like that. And then they push through your cervix into your uterus a blue dye. And they're basically just watching it go into your fallopian tubes. They want to make sure your fallopian tubes are open.
Right. It's like checking to make sure like endometriosis would be something that could
cause like scar tissue or blockage of your fallopian tubes. So they just want to make sure your fallopian tubes are open, because that could be one main reason why someone isn't getting pregnant, because if they don't have a fallopian tube open, or if both aren't open, then the sperm can't go through that to
and the egg can't get to the uterus either, right?
Yes. Right. Both. So so we did that test, and in that test they saw that my both fallopian tubes were open. They put it on the screen. It's like an ultrasound at the same time, and you can see the dye going through like up into your uterus, like through your like little tubes. It's so weird. So
was it painful? Wait,
it wasn't very painful. Okay. So like, don't trust people when they say things are painful, because everyone has a different pain tolerance. And I learned this at my work too, because like, we're, like, waxing people's, like, vaginas. Yeah. So people you could just tell. Everyone has such a different pain tolerance. Some people are, like, so dramatic and, like, this is worse than childbirth. And then some people, like, don't even flinch. So I know that from that. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to take everything with a grain of salt. But I was scared going into it because they're like, it's going to be the most painful thing ever. You just get a few cramps. Like, almost like period cramps. Mm-hmm. And then after, they have to give you an antibiotic to make sure you don't get, like, an infection and all that. But so they learned that my fallopian tubes were open, and then, but in that, they saw that at the top of my uterus, I had, instead of it being straight at the top, it, like, dipped down, so it kind of, like, indented, and she said that wasn't normal. And so the doctor that was doing that test with me wasn't my, like, initial doctor that I had the consultation with, so she didn't even really tell me any information in that test. She was just like, oh, your doctor will reach out to you and call you.
And never a good sign.
No. So then after that, I was, like, freaking out because I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So that was, like, all the main testing that we did in the very beginning.
And that is called, like, a septum, right?
Yeah. So what I learned from me having, like, an indent at the top of my uterus was they said, yeah, it's called a septum uterus, which could mean so many different things. If you have a very bad, like, septum in your uterus, it could mean, like, yes, you're in, like, your uterus is, like, indented to where it's almost, like, split. Like, there's, like, a wall in the middle of your uterus. So mine was actually not bad at all. Basically, how she explained it to me was that there's, like, tissues sitting at the top of my uterus that are all, like, intertwined, and that's what's kind of, like, making my uterus, like, indent. And blood flow can't get to my uterus because all that tissue is there.
Oh, I see.
And
so it could be messing with, like, the lining? Or is that...
I don't think so. Okay. I think it's just basically, like, she said it's hard to, like, keep a pregnancy. She said you should still be able to get pregnant because people with a septum have gotten pregnant before, but usually it either results in miscarriage or, like, having your baby, like, early term. But she just said it is harder for blood supply to reach the, like, embryo, I guess, in your uterus.
I see.
So she said they would just have to go in and cut out all that tissue so that all the blood could, like, free reign to, like, the uterus.
Did she say anything about it, like, growing back, or?
No. So she said it shouldn't grow back. Okay, like, once it's cut, it's done. Okay. And she also said I was born with this. So it's nothing, like, I did that caused this. Like, people are just born with that. So that's another question. I was like, why did this happen? Like,
yeah, what
how
am I
did
doing
this
wrong?
happen? Yeah. But no, it just happened.
Dang.
So.
Yeah.
And I would have never known this if I didn't go through all this testing. So.
Right.
But another thing, like I said, is she said that doesn't mean you can't get pregnant. A lot of people have gotten pregnant with this. So then that's another weird thing because you're like, well, then why haven't I gotten pregnant? So
yeah, I know somebody who also had a septum in their uterus, and I don't know how serious hers was because either I don't remember or she never told me. I don't know which one. But they got it removed and had 2 pregnancies after that, full term, and everything was fine. Yeah. But she also had, I think, 2 miscarriages before that. And that was part of why they went and got the testing done to find the septum, was because of the miscarriages. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, so my doctor was kind of, like, questioning herself, being like, it is weird that you've never been pregnant before because people do get pregnant with this, and yours isn't even that bad. But
which means that it probably is something else going on. And that's just an extra.
Yeah, that's just an extra, like, issue that we have. But, so at this point, that was all in 2017, because we did all that testing, like, right away. I was like, yes, let's get this over with. After they found that I had the septum in my uterus, she said I needed to schedule that surgery to get it all cut out. And mind you, at this point, Corey and I both had health insurance, but our health insurance doesn't cover any fertility treatments or testing or anything.
Fertility is often not included in your health insurance.
Yes, unless
it's
you have,
considered elective.
Yeah. I know there's, like, certain insurance plans, I think, that you can, like, pick that cover some
They're,
stuff.
like, the special
ones. And you have to, like, pick your insurance plans at, like, certain times of the year.
Right, so unless you either are somebody who, like, picks the expensive one no matter what, or if you, like, find out about it near the time frame, and then you just wait for the next insurance one or whatever.
it's very confusing. But
I hate the U.S. insurance.
Yes, right? It should
Hate
just
it.
all be free.
Yes.
But so Corey and I's insurance didn't cover anything. So that surgery to cut out those like tissues, the septum in my uterus, was going to be very expensive. So the price of that surgery was going to be like around $2,500, and that's just out of pocket. Our insurance doesn't cover anything. And at this point, Corey and I were saving to hopefully buy a house or a condo within like the next year. So we planned on just waiting until we were ready for this. Also because you're going into this testing, hopefully not, you don't think they're going to find anything. Mm-hmm. In my head, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this testing and maybe they'll put me on some medication and then I'll get pregnant. Right. I don't know. I'm just thinking like minimal.
Like we were talking off camera before we started about progesterone and how a lot of times it's the issue, especially if somebody is getting pregnant and having miscarriages, a lot of times the issue is that their progesterone is low, and so it's like an easy fix of just having a progesterone pill every day.
Yeah. So
and then that's it.
Exactly. And I didn't like research a lot of like infertility, fertility, because there's so many things that play into it. Like you can have so many different things going on. So in my head, I was just like, well, I'm so young and like it shouldn't be that big of an issue. So maybe it will be something where they're just like prescribe me a medication or whatever. Mm-hmm. So then finding out all this, that I have to go through this surgery, which the surgery isn't even that big of a deal. She said if you can handle the pain, you don't have to do it under anesthesia, which that would be the $2,500. But if you can't handle the pain, which some people can't, and you want to be put under and to take or have anesthesia, it would be, I think, like $1,000 extra, so like $3,500. Okay. So then that's a whole other thing. Then you're in your head like, I don't know,
Yeah, how am I supposed to know until we're doing it? How am I supposed to know? So then you have to like prepare to say, never mind, let's do it.
Yes. So it's just so much information. So Corey and I just decided to wait on our next steps, and then in my head too, I was like, well, maybe we'll end up getting pregnant naturally in that time. Who knows?
Right, because she was saying that you
could still get pregnant. Yeah. So that whole next year, we basically didn't do anything. We just tried naturally. I still tracked my ovulation. I kind of went back to like square one, just because we were saving to buy our condo, and then it was just so much, and you're just like, okay, wait, I need to think about all this. I think that next following year is when we did buy our condo. And then we like still were kind of giving ourselves a break because we had just like saved up all this money, then like spent all this money. So we still weren't even thinking about like going back and doing this surgery. Mm-hmm. And still in the back of our heads, we were just hoping that we would just get pregnant naturally. So I kind of just like put all this fertility stuff out of my head and was just hoping for the best. Mm-hmm. Because you hear those stories where it's like, oh yeah, we were getting ready to do fertility treatments and then we got pregnant naturally. So your mind just wants to think like sometimes your mind wants to think positive, and then sometimes it goes to the negative. It's very like up and down thing. So
especially like the longer that you're in it, I feel like that, and a lot of people will say like, just don't think about it. And like, how do you not think about
it?
When
relax, it will happen.
Yeah,
like
and
no.
like it's like so all consuming because it's just like, this should be easy.
Yeah,
right?
It should be easy. You see other people, friends, family that just it just happens to them so easily. Like, even my sister, during our whole, like, journey so far, she had gotten pregnant. It only took her a month of trying and had a baby who's now going to be 4. Mm-hmm. So just that whole process of her trying, getting pregnant, and having her baby, it's already been 4 years. I'm like, I could have had, like, a 4 or 5-year-old at this point, too. So it's just, like, it's just so crazy, like, how much time actually passed. And, like, I don't know, it's just such a, like, cycle. Like, I go through, like, positive feelings, like, it's going to happen. Then I go through negative feelings, like, no, it's not going to happen until we go back and do this and do that. Like, so it's just crazy. Yeah. But so when we finally decided to go back and do my surgery, which the more time that went on, I was like, no, we're going to have to do that surgery if we want anything to happen. So we did that surgery just recently in 2020. We did it in July of 2020. So this was during the pandemic, and I think this is what made us like want to go back to, is because we were just stuck at home. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone was just stuck at home in this stupid pandemic, and
everyone's having babies. Like, the pandemic babies are crazy.
Yes.
Which is like I want a pandemic baby.
Yeah, right? Like, I want to be in this group. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But
our next baby boomer generation.
Yeah, so many babies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so during this pandemic is when we're also just stuck at home, not going out. Like, we were just saving a lot of money as well because we weren't going anywhere. Like, we're the type of people that like to go out to eat and like go out to do a lot of things, and so being stuck at home, we weren't doing that. So we were like, wow, like we're saving a bunch of money. It was actually a really easy surgery. Again, people like to scare you and say like, oh, if you can't handle the pain, like you're going to need to be under anesthesia. Well, I just decided I'm just going to like suck it up and handle the pain because we didn't want to pay extra money. So if you don't have to go under anesthesia, they just do it in their doctor's office. But if you were going to have to do anesthesia, it would have to be in a hospital.
Oh, I see.
And
so it's not like you can just like, I'm sorry, this is too much.
Yeah,
like,
it's like they would have to like stop the process and be like, well, we're going to need to schedule you at the hospital on another day. So I was kind of just like, this is what we're doing. I'm just going to suck it up. Like, who cares how painful it is? So I was like really scared going into it, but it was actually really easy. It was kind of like that one test I was saying, the HSG test, where it was just like crampy and that was it. So it wasn't even that bad. So they basically she goes up into your uterus, and then they have like this long like thing that has like a scissor at the end. It's so tiny. So like I didn't look at anything until
terrible.
It sounds really terrible. And I didn't look at anything on the table. I was just like closing my eyes.
Were you allowed to like wear headphones and like
probably, but I didn't. I went into it so blinded. I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
When I get like dental work done, I bring headphones.
Oh, really?
And actually, my dentist office is
idea.
so cute. They like have well, I don't know if they do during COVID because I haven't been since, but they have like headphones that you can borrow.
That's so smart. I've never thought of doing that, even like during dental stuff, which I hate. I hate like the drilling and the sounds. Like ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, this she just said it was going to be similar to like a pap smear, but they're going to be in there longer because they have to go through and cut out all that tissue. So the only thing I really felt was they put like a fluid to like expand your uterus, and she said that's what gives you like the cramps feeling, like almost like period cramps. So I did feel that, but they weren't even that bad. And then when she went in to like cut out the tissue, I didn't even feel the cutting, which sounds really bad, but you don't feel it. And then again, she had it on the screen, so you could see her like going in like cutting tissue out, which that grossed me out. I was like, okay, I kind of don't want to look at this. But then she's
so
like,
creepy.
It's so weird that all this goes on in your body, and you're like, what? But you could see as she was like cutting the tissue, then you could start to see all this blood flowing, and so that's what she wanted to show me. She's like, see, look, now you can see like all this blood.
Oh,
flow.
like the good flow.
Yeah, that's supposed to be like flowing there. That wasn't before.
Okay.
So that made me feel good. So she said like the whole process took like maybe 15-20 minutes. It was really fast. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
So it wasn't even that bad. So I was glad we got it over with.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that was 2020, July 2020.
July of 2020, and then after that, she basically said, like, let's discuss your next steps. So we had a whole nother consultation with her because at that point we had kind of, like, done everything we needed to do, and now it was, like, what do you guys want to do? Like, do you want to continue to try naturally? Because it hasn't nothing has happened for this many years. Mm-hmm. So we had another consultation with her, like, a month later. I think it was, like, or at the end of July, early August of 2020. And this was over Zoom because it was, like, during the pandemic. And she basically said what she suggests for us is IVF. So she just said because you guys have been trying for this long and you clearly haven't gotten pregnant, even though, like, you should have, like, even though you had the septum, you should have gotten pregnant. She just suggested going straight to IVF because at this point, I'm 29, I'm still young, so IVF for me, like, should work. Mm-hmm. But she's like, you don't want to waste your time and keep trying for so many years and then realize that you want to do IVF and then it's harder.
Other issues that get in the way. Yeah.
So she said you could either go straight to IVF, which is what she suggested, or you can try IUI, which
so let's go through statistics too, but let's go through what IUI is versus what IVF is.
Okay. Yeah. So what IUI is it's called an intrauterine insemination. So basically, what you do is you go into the doctor's office around the time that you're ovulating. So you would start tracking your ovulation like you normally would. So after your period, you would start taking the ovulation test at home. And as soon as you get a positive ovulation test, you would call your doctor. And that's when you would start to go in for ultrasounds. And they want to check that your follicles are maturing. You're having a follicle that's maturing, that's going to ovulate, and they want to track that exact moment that you're going to ovulate. And so then they want you to hopefully come in on the day that you're ovulating, and then they'll have your partner or your husband go in and give their sperm sample, and that same day that you're hopefully ovulating, they'll take the sperm and they'll take a tiny like long catheter, they'll put the sperm in there and they'll inject it all the way up into your uterus. So this is supposed to just put the sperm exactly where it needs to go when the egg is waiting right there. Mm-hmm. So it's basically supposed to help, just because, you know, if you have sex like naturally and you're trying to conceive naturally, the sperm has to swim through all this stuff. It has to swim through the cervix, through all your mm-hmm. like cervical mucus, which sometimes could like kill off the sperm, mm-hmm. like just so many things. So it's supposed to just put the sperm right where it needs to go. So it's supposed to help.
Yeah. It like helps the percentage rate.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's still kind of like you're trying naturally, but it's just supposed to like help you a little bit because it's like mm-hmm. boosting the sperm right up there. Some people do this medicated. So some people that don't ovulate normally, like the doctor would prescribe them medication to help them like ovulate and just mm-hmm. help with that, or help their hormones or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But because I would ovulate normal and like my hormone levels were fine, I was doing it unmedicated.
Okay.
So anyway, so she gave us the option, but she did suggest doing IVF.
Okay.
So IVF is, what is it called? In vitro fertilization. So it's basically they're making a baby outside of the body. So you go through the process of taking injections, which is like hormones, to get your body to produce a bunch of eggs, more than you would normally.
Because normally you're maturing only one egg at a time. Sometimes two. That's how you get a certain type of twin. Can't remember which.
Yeah.
And then, so these are making you, like, basically overproduce eggs.
Yeah.
So that then they can go in and extract them.
Yeah, so then they would go in and take out all of the eggs that you produced, and then they would take the sperm, and this is all outside the body because they're taking the eggs out, and they would fertilize each egg that they got, and then they would watch it grow, and then hopefully you would get multiple embryos out of it, and then they would, if you want to do testing on the embryos, you can do genetic testing to make sure that it doesn't have any like abnormalities or like genetic diseases. You would also find out the gender at that time, so this is all before they even put the embryo inside you. And then once you have like a healthy, perfect embryo, then they would transfer it into your uterus, mm-hmm. and they would hope that it would implant, and then you would be pregnant.
Mm-hmm. And do they normally implant more than one?
So at my doctor's office, they say that they only try to implant one because they said it's just harder on your body to do twins, especially after going through like fertility treatments, mm-hmm. and then also like you'll probably have the baby's early term, which just isn't the best for the babies, and like it's just more dangerous. So they said mm-hmm. they just try to implant one at my doctor's office. I know others do different things, but yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, so basically those were our options.
Gotcha.
And then
you were gonna say something about statistics on IUI.
Oh, so statistics on IUI, I think it's the rate that you could possibly get pregnant with IUI. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's like 10 to 15% that you could get pregnant with IUI. So it's very low. But if you look up the natural rate to get pregnant every month, just naturally, I think it's like 10 to 20%.
Yeah, it depends on what age category you're in.
Yeah.
That graph I was talking about gives you those.
Yeah, so IUI is pretty similar to just trying naturally.
Oh, so it's not like a super... It doesn't change it dramatically.
No. So that's why I think she suggested IVF for us.
So then IUI would probably be more useful for those who are in need of the medicated IUI.
Yeah. Or have possibly had a baby already and then now they just haven't had any luck or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but after hearing all this, again, it was just like a lot of information. It's very overwhelming. You never think, like, I mean, at least not me. I would never think that I would ever have to go through with IVF. Mm-hmm. So hearing someone say, like, that's what you should do, it's just...
You're just like, I just want to try everything else first.
Yeah, of course. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to do everything I can to not have to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's just so invasive. It's probably really hard on your body. I haven't gone through it yet, but I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. And then it's probably really
there's
emotional.
a big price difference.
Yes, there's a big price difference. Very expensive. Basically, we're not going to get any new cars in the next few years.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so obviously anything that's like that big of a deal, very expensive, hard on your body, very emotional. Like, you want to do everything you can to like not have to go that route. Mm-hmm. So Corey and I decided we were going to try IUI first, even though she said that might not be the best option for us. Again, we were just hoping, like, you never know.
Yeah.
So we decided we would do IUI, but we would only do 2 cycles of it, and if it didn't work, then we would move on to IVF.
Okay.
So that's what we ended up doing. So we did IUI twice, and that started, what was the first cycle that we did? In March. So in March of 2021. So we had a big break through like the holidays and stuff like that.
Obviously, with like all of this, it does take 2. So
yes.
like we're focusing on you. Is there stuff going on with Corey too?
Yes. So Corey has had his own side of everything, which is more for him to explain. So I don't want like I don't know.
His decision on if he wants to share it.
Yeah,
publicly.
exactly. So I prefer, like, if it were him talking about all our issues, I probably wouldn't want him to just, like, say everything about my side of it. So that's for him to share. Yeah. So, but basically, our best option was IVF, but we decided to go with IUI in hopes that that would work for us. But before the process of IUI, Corey did have to do one, like, small procedure to help our chances. And so that's why through, like, the holidays and stuff, we didn't start IUI yet. So we started IUI in March of 21. So basically, like I said, you just track your ovulation, and then when you're ovulating, you go into the doctor's office, and then they do this procedure, and it's really easy. It literally takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
and then it's basically like the same 2-week wait that we do every single month.
Yeah. So when you're trying naturally, when you ovulate, you only have like a day or two, a couple days to possibly, a couple days to get pregnant. Yeah. Because they say the sperm could last in you for up to, like, 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, so, like, the standard statistics that I can find online is that sperm lasts 3 to 5 days inside.
So if you were to, like, have sex days leading up to ovulation, hopefully it could be waiting up there.
Right. And then the egg, once it drops and, like, it ovulates, lives up to 24 hours, but the average is 6 to 12... Yeah, the average is 6 to 12 hours, but it can survive up to 24. So, like, if somebody was family planning trying not to get pregnant, then you want to give yourself a solid week if you're able to estimate when you ovulate on a regular basis. Because if your ovulation is different every month, then that changes everything. Yeah. But if you have a regular cycle and you were trying not to get pregnant using family planning, then you have about a week of a
that you would want to
period of time you'd want to avoid. But when you're trying to get pregnant, even though that week is basically the safety buffer, but, like, it's really only, like, 3 days.
Yes.
Like, you can't just, like, get pregnant any day of the week.
No.
Or any day of the month. Like, that's insane to me.
It's so crazy. And that's why it's so crazy that, like, so many accidents happen. I'm like, how?
Yeah, and I get it because, like, even so, we're 8 months into me.
Yeah.
Ovulating, and tracking is what I meant.
Yeah.
And because I had been on birth control for so long, and, like, I did know that I wanted to, like, get pregnant immediately, which, like, LOL.
Yeah.
I, like, started tracking right away because I didn't know when I ovulated. Like, I knew I needed to know when I ovulated, and I knew I had enough friends before this that had issues with their own pregnancy journey that I knew that it could be, like, or not that I knew it could be difficult, but more of, like, I knew that it wasn't just, like, oh, yeah, just, like, have sex any day and, like, boom, baby. I knew that it was only a shorter period of time that, like, you're actually likely to get pregnant. Yes. So I wanted to ovulate. I mean, I wanted to track ovulation for that reason.
Yeah.
My ovulation moves in, like, a 3-day period.
Mine, too.
And, like, that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. Exactly.
Still not pregnant. And it makes it, like, so much. I get the sentiment behind when people are like, just relax, or, like, don't think about it or whatever, because it does, like, make you more stressed.
Yeah.
And, like, all of that is I think is coming from a good place, and like there's something to be said about it, but then simultaneously it's like, when you've been doing this for so long.
Yeah, like you don't tell someone that I know people don't understand this, but when you've been trying for however long, even if it's 8 months to like 5 years, like that's what you're thinking about constantly every month, because you have to go through the whole cycle of it every month. So when you tell someone like, just relax, it'll happen, it's like, well, it's been 8 months. Like, no, clearly that's not going to work. Like, I've been relaxed, like, before, you know, when I... It's just...
And, like, we also... So it's really interesting, too, and this is sort of... It's still on topic, but, like, sort of off the one side of the road here. But, like, we took 1 month off. So, like, we had our miscarriage in the beginning of February. We tried right away, and then obviously didn't get pregnant. And then we took a month off right after that. Yeah. And, like, it's weird because I know some people, I know we've talked about this too, of, like, even when you're not trying, you're still like, well, we're going to have sex.
Yeah, I'm still going to try.
Give all the opportunities a chance, but, like, I'm just
not I might not obsess over it, but, like, I'm not going to skip those days.
I purposely did skip them. Yeah. I was like, no, I want to know that I'm not pregnant, because I didn't want to be like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I know I'm not pregnant. I'm going to drink. Yeah. Or
you don't want to go through that 2-week wait where, like, oh, can I have a drink? Or am I going to, like, you know, do something?
Right, exactly. I want to get in the hot tub and not have any inkling of, like, should I not do that? Yeah. Just in case. So everyone is going to deal with all of those things differently. And I think both are valid choices of, like, I'm going to purposefully make sure that this month is not the month if I need a break, versus, okay, I'm not going to track and I'm not going to, like, whatever. Yeah. All of those list of things that we normally would do. Yeah. But still, like, have sex during that period. Yeah. Because just in case, you never know. Yeah. Like, both are good choices. Yeah. It just depends on you.
I've had, like, different versions of, like, not trying. Like, I have had the months like you where we just didn't try nothing, because I just wanted to, like, not even think about it. And then I've also had the months where Corey and I say, like, we're just not going to try. And then secretly in my head, I'm like, well, we're still going to, like, have sex on those days, because we can't let a month go by, because you never know, you know. Yeah. So I've had multiple of those, but yeah, it just depends.
But so you went through IUI.
Yeah, so we went through IUI in March, and like I said, we didn't do it medicated, we just did it naturally, and it didn't work. There's not really much to say on that, because it's just what we explained. And then like we said, we're going to try it 2 times, so then we did it right away back to back in April, and then that didn't work, and then now here we are. So we decided we're going to do IVF, but after the second IUI didn't work, we did decide, wait, did we take a break? We took a break. Didn't I say we took a break?
You had a month of a normal cycle. You're waiting for one cycle, right?
Yeah. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Yeah. So that was March and April. We're now in May, and we decided this month of May we're going to take time off to, first of all, decide financial side of the IVF situation, and we have to do some more testing before actually starting IVF, just like blood tests and stuff like that again. Is that it? Yeah, so just a couple more tests, and then starting June, we're planning to start IVF. So, yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Just because it's been a long, like, process and long road, and now to finally actually do what was suggested for us in the first place kind of thing, like, I'm just excited to be like, okay, we tried everything we could, like, we're going to do what will hopefully work for us. So.
Yeah, and there's, like, still so many things, like, I know we were talking about before we started recording, of, like, there's still all these, like, little pieces of IVF that are, like,
so many,
so stressful, like, to even consider, but, like, just the fact that you know, like, we're doing something. I think just feels good.
Yeah, it feels good to just know that, like, there's no other options other than IVF, and that's, like, the option we're going with, and, like, yes, we're doing it, and we'll figure it out as we go. Like, there's so many little things that you have to, like, decide before going into IVF. Like, are we going to do the genetic testing on the embryos? Are we going to do this before that? So there is a lot of things you have to, like, consider, and, like, for every person, like, IVF is different. Like, so there's so many little things that go into it, but I'm just excited to start the process.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so that's basically a story that I wanted shared on this podcast, is that sometimes it takes 5 years to get to the position where you're now at, I guess. And like not everybody's decision to make a baby is like, boom.
And everyone's, like, road to, obviously, motherhood is so different, whether it's, like, trying naturally or going through fertility treatments. So it's just, like, no one way is going to ever be the same. Yeah. And just because ours took 5 years, like, I'm not sitting here, like, saying, like, oh, my God, it took 5 years. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, like, it happened that way for a reason because we went through so many different things along the way. So I don't look back thinking, like,
I wish I had figured it out sooner or something.
It's kind of just like it all happened at this time for a reason. I'm glad it did because I feel like now we are at the perfect point in our lives to be able to do IVF and to have a baby. I feel like when we first got married, like, not saying we wouldn't have been ready if we had a baby, but I feel like it's better now. Yeah. So I just feel like
there were different hurdles that existed then that don't exist now.
Yeah, kind of exactly.
So I want to kind of open up a question of what are some things throughout this time frame of 5 years of wanting to be a mom and not being a mom yet. What are some things that, like, you want people to either know that, like, if they're seeing this and being in pain because of something on social media, for example, like, what has helped you with when those moments come up? And then on the opposite side of, like, somebody who's watching this just because they're watching it or listening and they don't know anything about that, like, so that they kind of have, like,
like, what I should be careful of saying and
careful of saying, or what can you say? How can I help? Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like anyone that's, like, going through something similar to what we're going through, that, I mean, when you want to be a mom, when you decide you want to be a mom and then you're trying and, like, it's not happening, like, that's all you want is, like, you just know, like, and you would be such a good mom. And, like, I don't know, when you're at that point in your life, you just know that you have the life to give to that child, and then not being able to, it's just really hard. So, I don't know. I just think talking about it for me definitely helps. Like, finding out what you went through and being able to, like, connect with you and talk to you about it, and just me being more open in general. Like, I feel like in the beginning I wouldn't talk about it to anybody except maybe my family, and that just made it feel more lonely because if anyone ever brought up, like, kids or trying or being pregnant, like, I just felt like I was, like, holding all these feelings in and, like, not talking about it, where now, like, being so much more open about it, like, even with strangers, like, at work, I'll have a client that is like, oh, do you have kids? And I used to just be like, no, and, like, not talk. And that would make me feel so horrible inside. I feel like I would just be like, oh, my God, like, why can't I open up to these people? Now if a client that I don't even know, like, a stranger asks, like, do I want kids or why don't I have kids yet? Like, I just tell them straight up. I'm like, yes, I want kids. I've actually been trying for 5 years and now we're doing IVF. Right. And I don't say it in, like, a weird way. I say it in, like, a normal, I don't want to make them feel bad for asking. I don't care that they ask. Yeah.
And I feel like one of the things that when I went through the miscarriage, one of the things that I, like, was holding on to really hard, one thing that I did first was going online and searching for other people going through, like, specifically a chemical pregnancy, which is an early miscarriage. So I didn't really get into it in this episode, and I feel like I've mentioned it in previous episodes, like, briefly, but basically, I found out I was pregnant on, like, February 2nd, I think, and then by February 8th, I was miscarrying, and it was it was, like, technically not a missed period either. When I found out I was pregnant, I was only 3 weeks pregnant, and then by the 4th week, like, I was
when
actually...
you should get your period.
Right. I miscarried on, like, day 1 of week 4.
Yeah.
So, like, it's considered a chemical pregnancy because I didn't miss a period.
Like, you were pregnant, but it may not have, like, implanted or...
Right, or, yeah. So, like, there's a lot of, it could have been, there's, like, a bunch of different things that they think that a chemical pregnancy is. Either, like, there was something wrong with the embryo that, like, it wasn't going to survive anyway, so your body naturally, like, gets rid of it. Or it was an ectopic pregnancy that got rid of it sooner rather than, like, in a more emergent way, which happens, like, to... I don't remember what the percentage rate is, but ectopic pregnancies are not super rare, but, like, relatively rare.
Yeah.
And so they think that chemical pregnancies are way more common than we know they are, because up until recently, you wouldn't have been able to detect that you were pregnant that early, unless you were going through something like IVF where they're checking earlier than usual.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, that's what I went through, and it
helped for you to look up the exact situation that other people went through.
Yeah. Feeling like there were other people who understood, because, like, one of the things that I, like, I was feeling these feelings, but, like, I couldn't wrap my head about why I was that upset about it. Like, even at the point where we were, like, when we thought we were pregnant, I, like, hadn't even really wrapped my head around that was real. Like, I wasn't already, like, oh my gosh, gotta plan the... X, Y, and Z, like, I had told a few people, and my sister had already said, like, I'm planning the baby shower, and I was like, no, we're not doing that anytime soon.
Hold on.
Like, chill out. Like, I was not ready to like, go full throttle yet at all. So then when everything, turns upside down, and I'm miscarrying, it was kind of like, it was very weird. Like, I didn't really understand why I was that emotional about it. And there were other things going on at the same time that I think contributed to that. But, like, yeah, I just had a really hard time, like, really wrapping my head around why I was even as upset as I was. Yeah. Because it didn't feel like I had the right to be that upset.
It happened so fast. Like, you didn't really get to soak in the feelings of, like, actually being pregnant before you already had to, like, feel the feelings of, like, having a miscarriage. So I feel like it was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things that I did was go online and search for stuff. And so because that was, like, the thing that helped me, I, like, wanted to make sure that I was also talking about mine.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was really important to me, and that's also partially why I wanted to do this. And I'm glad that you are wanting to share, because I just think that it's helpful.
It is. The more... infertility and then, like, miscarriage and just, like, trying to conceive in general is... like, so common, like, and I feel like people don't understand that because not that many people talk about it. I feel like now more people are talking about it, but it should be okay to talk about and, like, to be able to, like, relate to other people. So, like, yeah, it definitely helps me seeing other people on Instagram or social media or YouTube or whatever talk about their experiences, because you could just relate to each other. And then it is just such a lonely feeling when you go through these things, like, month to month, and you don't have anyone else to talk about it.
Even, like, the cycle stuff, like, the 2-week wait shit on TikTok is so fucking hilarious and relatable. Like,
because those feelings, like, for anybody that's trying to get pregnant or has been pregnant, like, like, those 2 weeks, like, that you're waiting to find out if you're pregnant, like, are the worst 2 weeks of, like, life. Like, because you're just like, am I pregnant? Am I not?
Yeah.
Can I have like, a drink? Can I not? Like,
and is this a symptom or is this gas? Like,
or is this my period? Like,
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, the one that makes me laugh really hard, it comes up pretty often right now. It's, like, a popular one on TikTok, is, like, the mirrored, it's the filter that makes you mirrored, so there's, like, 2 of you.
Okay, yeah.
And then it's, like, this common sound on TikTok right now where it's like, we're twins. When I am she and she is me, and you can't tell the difference, or whatever. And it just says, like, pregnancy symptoms, PMS.
Yeah.
It makes
so
me
true.
laugh so hard. I'm like, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep. That's
seriously,
the one.
they're so alike. Like, how would you know?
Yeah.
But
what are some apps that, not necessarily for, like, the emotional side of things, but, like, the tracking stuff?
So for me, for me, I just have one app for tracking, like, my ovulation. What is it called? I think it's called Ovia, I want to say.
It's yellow?
Yeah, it's yellow. OVIA. It's just a basic app to track, like, the calendar of, like, when you're ovulating and all of that. And then recently I downloaded this app because I saw, like, people on Instagram, like, a lot of, like, influencers that have gone through, like, infertility and stuff. It's called 1 in 4. Have you heard of that one? Mm-mm. So it's really good, actually.
Phone is up there.
Yeah, you should download it because you can put in the keywords of stuff that you want to follow. So for you could probably put in like miscarriage, trying to conceive, like those things. And I had like trying to conceive and like ovulation stuff or like tracking and stuff at first. And now that I know I'm going to be doing IVF, I'm literally just following like IVF stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've just in this past week alone, I've already gone on there and like you can ask a question and then random people that have gone through it will answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I asked like, for example, I was so nervous to get the COVID shot, and I wrote on there, I said, has anyone gotten the COVID vaccine before doing IVF or during IVF? Because my doctor said it was okay to get both shots before starting, but I was still nervous. I'm like, but should I? Like, you said it's okay, but like, you know. So I went on there and asked that question, and like multiple people answered me, and they were all like, yes, I got it, and I'm pregnant now. So like, that made me feel good about it. So yeah. So it's called 1 in 4, and you can follow, like I said, the different things to help what you want to follow.
Yeah. I use Pre-Mom for tracking ovulation and everything, and Pre-Mom is a brand also for ovulation tests and pregnancy tests. So like I bought the ovulation kit, which comes with 50 ovulation sticks and 20 pregnancy sticks, and I've bought that twice.
Yeah, the amount of things or tests that you go through.
Yeah, we'll get into that too. I want to ask that next. But anyways, you can use any ovulation kit like sticks as long as it's just like the plain, you know, like the cheapy ones. Yeah. And then Pre-Mom, you like take a picture of it.
Oh yeah, that's right. You showed me.
Yeah, and then you can also fix it if the automatic one doesn't do it, but it'll give you like the number for your LH surge, and then it'll track everying for you. And
that's so cool.
You can also, just like Ovia, you can, because I used Ovia too for a while, but I like the graphing on Pre-Mom better. So you can test like your body basal temperature, and like you can put in a bunch of other symptoms, but your temperature and the LH will graph on there, and then you can watch, like you can see the
that's cool. Yeah.
too. And I did body basal temperature for a while, which basically means you have to take your temperature like immediately upon waking up.
I never did that. I was so confused by it.
I did it for 2 months, and it wasn't good for me. Like, not because it didn't work, but because it just made me more like anxious. I don't know if it was because I was doing like too many things all at once,
like tracking too many things.
Yeah, because like I also just feel like the more part of like I think what was making me more anxious at the start was also just because like I didn't know my body really at all, minus being on birth control, just because I had been on birth control my whole life. Yeah. So like I didn't know how to see certain things that are like, oh, here's ovulation coming up, like cervical fluid we were talking about earlier, for example. Like I didn't know any of that yet. Yeah. And so now, 8 months in, like I can look at stuff like that and not track my body basal temperature, and I still have a pretty good idea of when I ovulate. Yeah, exactly. Even without the ovulation test kit. So,
not that I need all the parts of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I just feel like the ovulation tests and me being able to look at my fluids is enough.
Knowing your body.
Yeah, that's limit for me at this point. But yeah, I like Pre-Mom a lot.
Yeah.
And then you can also, I did at some point have a positive pregnancy test. It'll switch for you into a pregnancy app.
And like track the pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You can track things like that.
That's cool.
Okay, so last question that I have is, do you have any recommendations for things like ovulation kits or like anything that you know about, like, is there certain like lubes that you shouldn't use, like anything like that? And I'll talk about mine too.
When we first started, we were using lube, and then I found out that like lube isn't good for trying to conceive because it can like kill the sperm, I think.
Yeah, so like there's some lube has like spermicide in it, which it helps kill sperm. Yeah. And then some lube, it just makes it harder for the sperm to swim.
Because I feel like the body, like a woman's like cervical fluid, it is technically supposed to help the sperm swim up. So technically you don't need like a certain type of lube.
Right.
But Sometimes it's more, like, comfortable.
Yeah, the lube is useful for other reasons, but not so much for helping the sperm moving on.
Yeah.
So I've heard, so there's something called pre-seed, which you
used
can
to
buy,
use that,
and it's expensive.
Yeah, it's really expensive. It's like $20 or something.
40.
40, okay.
40.
And we haven't bought it in a long time.
I looked it up recently, and I was like, we're not doing that. So I also looked up, there's 2 other ones that, I'll leave a few different, like, YouTube channels and stuff down below, too, because, like, there's MamaDrJones, she's an OBGYN, and Mom24, that's, like, her intro.
Aww.
And she has, like, a few videos that are all about trying to conceive and stuff like that. And she has, like, a couple miscarriage ones and stuff like that, too. And then Hannah Witton also recently is doing a, like, series on her channel all about her trying to get pregnant. She's also been trying to get pregnant since August, or maybe even before that, of last year.
And she's still not pregnant?
Yeah, so she got married in August, and they started trying, like, right after that.
Okay.
And she's still not pregnant, as far as I know, anyways.
Yeah.
Her last video went up, like, last month, and she wasn't pregnant yet. So she's done a bunch of information on that. But MamaDrJones recommended these 2 things. One is something that I can't pronounce because it's super sciencey, and I don't remember what it's called, but I'll put it down below. And then the other one was canola oil.
Oh, like, I've heard of that.
To use as a lube instead.
Yeah,
so
okay.
That's what we're doing now. Not that you needed to know that, but we'll see what happens.
If you wanted to know.
Yeah.
Like, now you know.
Yeah.
So for lube, like, we did use pre-seed a few times, but otherwise we wouldn't use anything. And then, what was the other thing you asked about?
Oh, like ovulation kits, or, like, anything else that you've bought to, like,
that help,
or anything that your doctor has said, like, don't eat that or don't do that or anything like that.
So, for ovulation kits, I found that the most helpful for me was I know it's more expensive, but it's the clear blue ones, because it's the ones that, like, the smiley face pops up. Because to me, the ones with the lines, I just had such a hard time reading, and then like figuring out which one was, like, darker, and, like, when we were really, really trying, like, naturally and, like, hoping that it would work, I just wanted the smiley face, because I was like, okay, now when the smiley face pops up and it says you're in that surge, the LH surge, so those were easier for me. They're, like, the clear blue brand. And then what else was I gonna say? Oh, for, like, once we started, like, with the IUI and now going into the IVF, we certain vitamins we're supposed to be taking. Some of them are, like, specific to us. Like, I was, like, low vitamin D, so I'm taking vitamin D prenatal. And she also said to take fish oil, which that's not specific to me. She said for women trying. Actually, I'll send you the list.
Okay.
Because it's just, like, vitamins for people trying to conceive, and, like, a diet, which the diet isn't crazy. It just says, like, healthier diet, more fruits and vegetables, especially blackberries, strawberries, and I think blueberries or something like that. But I'll send it to you. So it's more just, like, a healthy diet, more vegetables. And then for me specifically, when I start IVF, I can't have any alcohol, and then only, like, the same recommended dose of caffeine for, like, if you're pregnant, and I forget how much that is.
I think it's 150 milligrams, which is just over a regular, like, 10-ounce cup of coffee.
Yeah, so for me, I don't drink coffee, but I do like iced teas, which have caffeine in it, and I do like Diet Coke, which I feel like I'm addicted to Diet Coke.
Diet Coke has a lot of caffeine.
Yes, so for me, even though she said caffeine's okay, I'm just going to quit it, which I've already done. I've cut out caffeine when we were trying, like, naturally for a while. So for me, it's easier just cut it out completely rather than be like, oh, you can have, like, a cup here and there.
Yeah.
So as soon as, like, we start our cycle of IVF, I'm not going to have any alcohol and no caffeine. And then for Corey...
No caffeine at all? Like, no iced tea, no nothing?
No, I'm not. Because I get, like... When I crave it, I'm like, oh, that really sounds good, and then I want, like, a lot of it. Yeah, so I'm just like, it's going to be easier for me to just cut it out. Okay. And then for Corey, she just said for alcohol, only 1 to 2 drinks in one setting. Okay. So no more than, like, 1 or 2 drinks, which we don't drink every day. So it's like, if we were to go out with, like, family or friends, he'll only have, like, 1 or 2.
Right.
So, but other than that, I feel like that's it for us.
So my doctor, when I talked to her when I was pregnant in February, I asked her about a few different things that I was drinking. So one, caffeine, just like you said, already took care of that one. And then prenatals. So I actually had a couple different people tell me, like, when I was first trying, that, like, start taking prenatals right away. Don't wait until you're pregnant. Just, like, take them.
While you're trying.
And then I also started taking a vitamin D supplement because I'm never go outside.
The pandemic.
Yeah.
Me and
Like,
Corey were
hanging
both
all the
low
time.
in vitamin D. We were laughing because we're like, yeah, hello, we're stuck inside all day.
Yeah, so I started taking that, and then I usually, like, I haven't been taking it now, but 2 things that I was doing regularly was taking a green supplement,
Okay.
and it has a bunch of, what's the word? Adaptogen,
Oh,
which
I've never
I
heard
don't
of it.
really know what an adaptogen is, but whole, like, wellness people, like Whole Foods and wellness people say that adaptogens are really good for you.
Okay.
So when I got pregnant, I wanted to find out if that was okay and if the protein supplements that I use were okay, and also this like tea that I drink, which is a detox tea.
Okay.
So I gave like the list of ingredients to the doctor over the phone that I had called, and she was like, well, adaptogens in general don't tend to be a good thing when you're pregnant, so I would recommend not drinking that. And then she was saying until you can go talk to like the OBGYN that I was going to have an appointment with, and then obviously wasn't pregnant anymore, so I never went. So I don't know if like the adaptogens in that particular brand are not okay or not, because the doctor just like said in general you need to get that checked by the
OBGYN.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing I was drinking was detox tea, and she basically said that a lot of times detox teas have stuff that like can be bad because when a detox tea is usually something that'll like pull different parts of what you're digesting. It'll take it and then like flush it out for you, and you're not getting that. And so sometimes what it'll do is it'll take like the vitamins that you're taking, like your prenatals, it'll accidentally take all of that nutrients and flush it for you. So it's not that the detox tea is bad, it's that it can counteract
deflating like the other vitamins.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So I stopped drinking that, stopped drinking the greens. The protein supplement that I was taking was totally fine.
Because more protein is good for you, I think.
Yeah. I think the reason, like, I wanted to just check any sort of supplement because you never know, like, it might have something hidden in there that's not good. But yeah, those protein supplements that I take, that I have, are like relatively free of other things. Like there's no adaptogens in them, for example.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't even know
so
that
those are like all the things that I've known.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for Matt, like he does take a multivitamin, but like all of these things haven't really happened because we were trying. It's just like, I don't know if it's more of like he just randomly decided to do it, and maybe it is because he's like thinking like, I know he like started taking vitamins and he stopped drinking as much, more because he like wants to still have good energy later when he eventually has a child.
Yeah.
Not so much about the pregnancy part.
Yeah. Like just being healthy in general and like having more energy for the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Making sure he'll like be alive.
Yeah.
Because he's old.
Yeah. No, yeah. Corey takes a daily multivitamin, the vitamin D, and then he also takes vitamin C, which is supposed to help like sperm and all that.
Oh, okay. I didn't
And
know
then, there's a list for guys too, if you want me to send it to you. It's just like in general. But it's like, I think vitamin C is good for guys, and then there's one other vitamin. I think it was like, it's like called something Q10 or something like that. It's some weird vitamin I've never heard of, but I'm like, okay, we'll get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it that we're taking. So
Sweet.
yeah.
I think that's everything. Do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think so.
Good.
I feel like we covered all the bases.
Yeah.
It was a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. I hope that you stuck with us.
Yes.
Okay, our quote for today is, "As long as there is the tiniest, wildest chance, I can't give up."
I love that.
Me too.
That's like, yes. Like,
Exactly.
that's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing really else to say.
Because that's really like fertility and like trying and all that. It's like you just, no matter what, like you don't want to give up. So
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Well,
have anything to
hopefully,
say.
like in the next few months, we'll have good news to share.
Yeah, we'll have pregnancy announcements galore.
Yes.
Do you have anything to plug? Do you want to plug your social media? Do you not want to? It's
Yeah.
up to you.
If you want to follow me, I'll probably share more on my social media once I actually start IVF, because I haven't really shared much on like our infertility stuff. But my Instagram is just at Chelsea _ my last name, Massier.
I'll link it down below.
Okay.
So it'll all be down there.
Yeah.
So you can go follow her on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then my social medias are all down there. And I believe that our next episode Bayley will be back, which means we'll be talking about
Yay.
Bayley's birth story. And that just is like the exact opposite of
that's
this episode.
perfect to follow this episode.
Yeah, that's like the future for everyone involved, right?
Yeah. You want to know more about that anyways.
Yeah, exactly. You can get ready for what'll come after you finally get that positive line.
Perfect.
Okay, we always cheers at the end, even though my glass is
Okay.
empty.
Yay. Cheers.
Cheers.